Hey everybody, Phil Centerbear here with Why Do We Say That? The word for today is January. I can't help it. January, February, June, July. I'm sorry. January. We're now currently, today is January the 4th. Um, and why do we call it January? Have you ever thought about that? Well, back in school, back when I was a youngin', they had this picture of a god, and it had two faces called Janus, Janus, and one was facing this way, one was facing that way, because this god, the Roman god, he was a god before Rome existed, with the Etruscans, but Janus was the god of doorways, passages, arches, beginnings, and he looked both ways. He looked to the future and he looked to the back. So it was honored that when you went through an archway, you were starting something new, you were starting something, you would pray to the god Janus. So that makes sense that the January would be named after Janus. But that's not how it happened. Uh, no, it's not. Am I in the camera here? So the Romans had only 10 months in a year, meaning their year started in March. And we go March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's 10 months. Woo! And the names, December, we still use it, means 10, Decem. November, 9 for November. Uh, August is different. September, November, whatever. September means 7. Okay. October is 8. So that made sense to them. The year started in March, ended in December. That left a couple of empty spaces in two months in there with nothing because that was wintertime. So if the year starts in March and when it's freezing cold, nobody does anything, so you don't even count that time. But then about 700 BC, they readjusted this calendar, basically to go from a lunar. It was based on the number of the new moons, and they started going to a solar calendar. How long does it take the Earth to go around the sun? Now, when they did this, they said, well, that means we're going to have to add 2 more months. And they did. They added 2 months, January and February. But January was simply named because there was a feast to the god Janus in that particular month. So they said, well, we'll call it that. And then, of course, February is, they had a celebration of fertility, Februus, which they did in February, which is very interesting. They whip people. Anyway, and they called it that, so it was named after. So the month January is simply named there because it was stuck in there, and they had a feast day to Janus. Now, if the year still started in March, then that would be the 11th month, and February would be the 12th month. Is this all making sense to you, or do you all care? Nobody cares. So anyway, I'm just talking about the January. But then in about much later, they established the Gregorian calendar, and they moved January the first of the year. January the 1st became the first of the year. January 1st became, and that's how that happened. That it just happened. The god Janus, the beginnings, and new ending, it all fits together, folks. They didn't plan it that way, but that's the way it is. So when you say Happy New Year to somebody, you're telling them, Happy New Year. And I say that to you. Have a Happy New Year. Bye-bye.